Well, look, obviously, a little challenge in terms of preparation here with the, storm coming through. Kind of moved everything up just a little bit this morning to try to beat the majority of it, get the guys out of here, get them home, get them in a safe spot. And then based on the information that we have, it sounds like it's going to kind of take its course through the course of the evening. And then, so the plan as we sit here right now would be a kind of a normal Thursday schedule, but we'll be ready to adjust if we need to. Look, I think this is going to be a really, really good challenge for us. I think this is one that, we're going to embrace this challenge. We're looking forward to going up to Dallas and having a chance to play against a really good football team, an extremely well-coached football team, a team that's won a lot of games over the last few years. I think they're really good in all three phases. On special teams, they've got a really good scheme. They've got a really good returner. They do a good job with their specialist. Obviously, their field goal kicker's got an extremely strong leg, so that becomes a weapon. The punter can put the ball where he needs to. He can directional kick it. He's got a strong leg, and they do a good job of covering. So they're really good on special teams, on defense. I think Mike Zimmer is one of the better defensive minds in our game. He's always done a really good job. He's got some good players. They're good on all three levels. Probably get after the quarterback as good as anybody in our league. Micah Parsons, I think, is a dominant player regardless of position. One of, if not the best defensive player in our league. So he's a guy that we're going to have to pay attention to, understand where he's at. Obviously, Kendricks, as the Mike linebacker, he runs the show. He's been in Zimmer's defense, so they do a good job. They play sound. They play with good fundamentals. They take the ball away in the back end. Tough challenge there. Offensively, they're one of the higher scoring teams in our league over the last few years. The quarterback's playing really well. CeeDee Lamb is a heck of a receiver. Brandon Cooks. I think their offensive line, they've always built their team, offensively to start with the offensive line. I think they do a good job. They got Ezekiel Elliott back, in terms of the run game. So they just got a lot of weapons. They do a lot of really good things. They're well coached. They play really, really well at home. And so it's a great opportunity for us.
Was the decision to not evacuate pretty much predicated on you didn't feel like it was going to be as severe a storm as?
Yeah. I think that was the reason why we felt like there's a lot that goes into an evacuation. It's not just we pick up and we go somewhere. You got to find a place to stay. You're trying to make sure you're taking care of the families. So there's a lot that goes into that. I know a few years ago, I can't remember exactly when it was, we've been through a few of these. So I remember it was a Cat 1 that came right through New Orleans that it wasn't a practice day, but we were game planning through that. So, look, we want everybody to be safe, and yet we felt like we could still get our work done and keep everybody safe and not have to try to go through all the logistics of what it takes to go through an evacuation.
I think you were talking about Zeta a few years ago.
Yeah.
Y'all worked through generator power. So
yeah.
Are y'all going to do the coaches?
Coaches will be here this evening. We'll probably find a corner of the room to lay down in at some point in time and get a little bit of sleep. But yeah, we'll plan on, because I think the most significant weather is going to be, this evening into the early morning hours, and so that's kind of when we would be trying to wrap up. So I don't see anybody trying to get out of here in that type of weather.
But you secretly love having an excuse to keep everybody here all night.
That's not what I would call it. All right, but I think there'll be a few people that, find a place to lay down at here.
Did you miss anything? Like, what's the most significant thing you have to sacrifice to do this reduced plan today?
An hour of sleep for the players. I mean, we moved everything up an hour. Tomorrow we'll plan is to start at the same time, but we'll add in the meeting time that we're missing with the players this afternoon. We'll get that incorporated into, tomorrow's schedule. So the practice time will be probably a little bit later than what it is on a normal Thursday schedule. These guys will get you that information in terms of when it starts.
You mentioned Dallas's defensive pressure. Is that as much scheme as it is personnel, or is that?
Yeah, it's both. It's both. I mean, I think it's a really good scheme. They have a really good pressure package, and so we'll have to have, we'll have to be on point with how we're identifying who's coming, which way the protection's going, all those kinds of things, and so that'll be a challenge. And then when you have a good scheme and you have really good players doing it, it becomes even better.
Well, the team does have like so many good guys that are pass rushers or like a lot of good receivers. Like, how do you guys dictate like who you're going to pay the most attention to? Like, how are those decisions kind of made?
Yeah, well, sometimes those are tough decisions, like, and yet, well, like on offense, you can't double everybody, right? And we can't double team every defensive player, in terms of protection or run blocking or anything like that. So I think you just, you evaluate their personnel, and then you have to make the decisions that you think are best. And sometimes that might, that might make somebody else's job maybe a little bit more difficult, but I think on every play, somebody's going to have a hard down, and we expect them to be able to do their job.
And when you guys are like deciding to double a receiver, like what situations in a game dictate when you would actually double them versus, is it like down and distance or?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's all game plan related, I mean, we're going to watch tape, we're going to see what we need to do, what we feel like gives us, a good chance to have success, and then we'll go from there.
I know you were kidding earlier about the slumber party and all that, but I mean, when you and Mickey have these discussions at the highest level about these decisions, I mean, is this one of those things just falls under this is the coach's life and this is what it's about? But I mean, I know you have concerns mainly with them being with their family.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's a lot of things that you take into consideration when you're doing this, and we felt like obviously in this situation, we felt like we were going to be able to do our work and make sure we keep everybody safe and make sure everybody's family is safe, and be able to do that and stay here. And then, when it was Ida a few years ago, it was one of those where we didn't feel like we were going to be able to get our stuff done. We felt like people might, be at risk. And so we took basically the whole, football operation and families and everybody, and we went to Texas for, the team was there for about a month, and the families were probably there a couple of weeks anyway.
You feel like you know more about meteorology than you ever did? You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you're dealing with weather?
Yeah, no, I don't think I know anything about meteorology, but I can listen. I'm pretty good at that, and we just when you have things like this, the hard thing is ultimately you have to make a decision on what you're going to do, and that's the hard thing. It's like none of us wanted to evacuate, and yet we wanted to make sure that we weren't putting anybody in harm's way, and so and then eventually you have to come to that decision. Here's what we're going to do, and an evacuation, that decision has to come a little bit quicker, So I think we kind of knew early on that we felt like this was going to be a situation that we could manage. Now, what I didn't know was, were we going to be able to get in and get our work done today? I didn't know if we were going to have to treat this like a short week and give the players off today, and then, Thursday would be like, like we were playing on a short week and we'd have 3 days of practice rather than 4 days of practice. So, but after we kind of let it get to the 12th hour, we realized, I think we can, I think this is how we can make this work.
So
What did you make of
the meetings, like the afternoon meetings with the players, is that going to be kind of a virtual thing? Like,
No, well, I'm sending the players home. They'll go home, and then we'll just extend the meetings tomorrow, and we'll get what we missed this afternoon. We'll get that in the morning before we get into the next install.
What did you make of Chase Young's performance the other day?
Yeah, look, I thought it was good. I mean, I thought, I thought he played physical. I thought he played the run well. I thought he affected the passer. I think he was disruptive. So yeah, I think he was an issue in the game.
Yeah, is that, I mean, he let in pressures, but didn't have a sack. Like, is that as good as you can?
You keep getting pressures on the quarterback, eventually your numbers, from a sack total are gonna be there, and he's gonna draw a lot of attention, so that's gonna open up some things for some other people. So there's a lot of in this game that we play, there's a lot of hidden production, where things are happening and you're causing things to happen and you're causing negative things for the other team, and yet that didn't show up on the stat sheet, but it does show up on the tape.
Yeah, how much of what the defensive line did in this game led to Alante's 3 sacks? I mean, you still had 4 sacks on the day.
Yeah. Well, it was probably a combination of things. I thought the 4-man rush, even though we didn't get the quarterback on the ground every time, I thought we affected the quarterback. I thought we were around the quarterback. I thought we got the quarterback off the spot, so he wasn't able to just stand back there and read the defense out and throw the football. And so, we all get enamored with sack totals, and certainly they're important. But it's really about how much do you actually affect the quarterback and affect his ability to be comfortable in the pocket. And that's and that really never changes. Obviously, when we want to get the quarterback, on the ground. But, when you bring the extra element, okay, now there's not as many scramble lanes, right? You're bringing an extra, dot in front of the quarterback, so he's got to maneuver around, 5 or 6 people rather than just having to deal with, 4 people. So, and I think that's a balance that you have to be able to have. I think you got to be able to, rush the quarterback with 4. And I think the most successful defenses are able to do that. And yet you need some times where you want to bring some extra pressure.
How does that change this week, or what sort of challenges it present with Dak, given that he's so good outside the pocket and creating?
Yeah, well, look, he's good outside the pocket. He's good inside the pocket. He's good wherever he's at, so it's going to present a challenge, either way. He does a good job when you pressure him. He finds the open receiver. When you got more than they can block, he has a tendency to be able to, just kind of drift away from the rush and still have enough arm strength to get the ball to his target. When you 4-man rush him, he's a good enough scrambler or mover in the pocket. I think he's got really good pocket presence in terms of being able to step up through the pocket and find running lanes or keep his eyes down the field and find open receivers.
You were really high on the cornerbacks even day one of training camp, just the depth there. Where do you feel that room stands now, even with a lot of more dealing with an injury?
Yeah, I'm really confident with that group. I think Debo, Lante Taylor, JaQuincy, Rico Payton. I mean, he's a guy that man, the start of training camp, I was like, I'm not seeing it, and then you just see him each day get a little bit better, and So he'll continue to get better, and so I feel really good about that room, and certainly when Lattimore's out there, you feel even better.
Is he close to going today?
What's that?
Is he close to going today?
He did not practice today.
Is there anything special at all for you about playing in Dallas and the Cowboys and, growing up in Texas? You care about that at all?
Only if we win. I mean, honestly, it's really about, going and playing a game. Obviously, I grew up watching the Cowboys, and I still have family in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so my mom still lives there. So, special meaning I got some friends there. I got my mom there. I'll probably get a chance to see her this weekend, which will be nice. But and I'll have plenty of family at the game. But look, other than that, I mean, it's really about just going and playing and trying to win a game, and whether it's in Dallas or Philly or wherever.
Does she root for the Cowboys normally besides?
No.
Going back to the cornerbacks, how do you feel like Kool-Aid handled being called in there for a lot more snaps than he probably was expecting?
Yeah, look, I mean, well, he came out of coverage on one of the scrambles, all right, which is, it's a great learning experience for him, and so I would say overall, I think he went in there and performed well. I'm excited about what I think he can do. I think as with any rookie, there's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some rookie mistakes that you're going to make. The big thing for me is that he gets indoctrinated to our culture and the way that we play the game. And he's been improving in that area, on a daily basis. So I think he's going to be a good player for us. He's growing, and there's going to be some growing pains that go along with that. But that's, that's really, honestly, that's what we get paid to do. That's our job. Our job is to grow and develop young, talented players, and so that's what we'll do.
When you look back and looked at the film, how much do you think the motion that you guys ran and touched the frequency, how much did that create opportunities for you guys?
Well, look, I can't say specifically. I don't know what that defensive scheme is, and the structure and exactly what they're telling guys to do. I do know this. I do know, from a defensive coach's standpoint, when you stand stagnant, it's a little easier to, to figure out what's going on. And so the more you shift, move, motion. Now, when you shift in motion and do those things, the defense changes too. So as an offense, you have to identify, where those X's are going, so we can get our O's in the right spot to be able to have success. And so, that sometimes it can present a challenge to the offense too. So I think you have to have a balance in terms of what you're doing.
And one on both quarterbacks, Derek and Dak, just as someone who has, you're preparing for Dak now. In the past, you've had to prepare for Derek. It's weird because you're in the business and they get this criticism like Dak doesn't win enough in the playoffs, or Derek has great numbers but hasn't been in the playoffs enough. It's just someone who's in the business and had to prepare for both and preparing for one this week. Have you ever heard that stuff, and what do you think about it?
Well, I think as someone who is in the business and someone who has had to prepare against Derek and has also had Derek in the building, and for someone who's had to prepare against Dak, I got a lot of respect for both of those guys. I don't think anybody really understands how hard the quarterback position is to play in our league, and it's still only one. It's only one position. It's one of 11, and the other 10 guys have to be able to do their job for, the quarterback to be able to have success. And in the same realm, it's the quarterback's job to, elevate the play of those around him. So I think everybody's always looking for who's the one person we're going to give credit to or who's the one person we're going to blame. When things go good, we want to give this guy the credit. When things go bad, we want to blame this person. And really, it's all of us. I mean, it's everybody included. And so, yeah, I think sometimes it's a little, unjust. And yet I get it from a fan's perspective. You just want to win, right? I mean, that's really all you're looking for. So I understand where that's coming from, but I also understand the internal dynamics of what it takes to win in our league.
Yeah, and it's a big topic for Dak this week just because of the size of the contract he just got,
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, they feel pretty good about him, right? I mean, you don't give a guy that type of contract without feeling pretty good about him. And, yeah, I mean, I just know we've played against him, and he's tough to deal with, all right? And so I can't speak on how anybody else may feel about that, but I know I'm not getting a lot of sleep.
It's a little different subject, but you all, I think, probably have new turf in the dome. Do you have any issues with that at all? Some teams around the league struggle with the footing.
No, I don't think we had any challenges that I can think of. And I haven't had any complaints with our guys. I think we're one of the few teams. I don't know who else does. We put new turf down in the dome every year. So that's one of the reasons why we like to, obviously we play 1 or 2 preseason games there, and then we like to have a practice in there and kind of get a feel for it and get our footing and make sure it settles the way it needs to settle. And, if there's any issues, we can kind of get those things ironed out before we play a real game. So.
And along the lines of what Brett was asking about Dak, and you don't hear a lot of criticism sometimes of Mike McCarthy in the league. You coached against him, I'm sure, a few times. I mean, as a head coach,
how many games you want him to win? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I got it. I understand. I understand, postseason success. Honestly, I understand that. But to get in the postseason, you have to win a lot of games. And he won a lot of games in Green Bay as a head coach, and he's won a lot of games in Dallas as a head coach. So I think that kind of speaks for itself. Not to mention he is a Super Bowl champion. All right, thank you.